not seeing John?
I don't have Lloyd.
Can you hear him? Lloyd, I can hear. Here's the interesting thing. Disconnect and reconnect one more time, PM. Rendezvous.
Well, maybe I should disconnect or refresh.
Disconnect.
Yeah. And reconnect. Can you see each other now?
No.
No? Can you see each other now?
I can't see.
Lloyd's gone off. He's going to reconnect. You see Lloyd now? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to OzByDrone, doing it by the seat of our pants. Oh my goodness.
Hi everybody, I'm John. How you doing? I'm here.
And I'm Greg, and this is the most interesting start to a show that we've had in a long time. So everything's happening. Number one, let's give you some news for the week. Number one, last night I was involved, as you can see from the shiner, in a little bit of an incident. My wife and I were in bed and no. I was out driving.
You're at the pub?
No, I wasn't at the pub. I was out driving and someone decided they liked the back of my car. So before we get into the show and tell you what everything else that's happening.
Now, please tell me you've got dash cam. Have you got dash cam footage of this?
Have I got dash cam? John, have I got dash cam?
Show me.
Of course I've got dash cam.
Let's see it. Roll that cam. Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. Here we go. My producer, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Oh, look, this is the rear camera. That's very clever. You got to have one of those, don't you? So you can see.
You do. You need a rear camera.
Oh! Bingo. P-plate driver 2.
Play that one more time.
Oh, there you play it again. We need to watch that a couple of times. So I can see your brake lights come on. See this? Brake lights down the bottom of the screen. And bang. Actually, it picks the whole car up. Look at the other car. It picks it up off the ground.
So long story short, there was traffic ahead that did stop reasonably suddenly. I braked with plenty of time. But the P-plate driver behind me, I think, was looking at the next lane and getting ready to do a lane change.
Maybe accelerating.
One more time for luck. One more time. Here we go.
See, that indicator's on now at the end. The indicator's on.
Yeah, I think that's both of his hazard lights, though. So he put his hazards on for safety. And bang. So long story short, my car is now totally dead, and it's not going to be set. It had hybrid system errors. It had braking system errors, pre-collision impact system errors. The amount of heads-up display information that was coming up on my car was rivaling what you'd see out of any drone, trust me.
And you've got a smaller trunk as well, I think, probably.
Yeah, look, I did need a compact car, but I wasn't expecting to do it through that particular method. So that was interesting. So that's number one. Then number two, this morning, we're getting ready to go live, and John disappeared, and then John couldn't get back on. We got him back on, and then it was just not working properly, and then he couldn't see Lloyd and Lloyd couldn't see him, and just before the show starts, well, you do need that's probably a safety precaution, Lloyd filtering.
Yeah, you don't want to have that kind of accident. But we're here now, which is a good thing. So welcome to the show, everyone. You're here with your regular OzByDrone.
Yeah, and apologies for John's green background. Like, he did have a different device that he was going to be using, And, the green background was there for the first time. I haven't done anything with it yet. But then the other device died and we've had to switch cameras. So
yeah, it's one of these foldable green screens. You can see I'm on the boat still. And it's a pop-up like a for your car windscreen. You pop it up. I'm sure many of you have seen these things. But, yeah, it does allow you to have an almost green screen that I had set up before. It looked rather nice. Anyway, back to...
We will play with that later. But you've got some exclusive news.
Yes, this is a force multiplier for sure. And I can tell you that the DJI has announced something very special this morning.
They've got a new aircraft?
No, you're thinking it's the
They've got the Agris drone?
2, no.
They've got the Phantom 5?
No, keep guessing. You wouldn't get this one at all. DJI Automotive has been launched this morning. DJI is going into the autonomous car market. They have developed, using their obstacle sensors from their aircraft and their software technology, they are going to provide any car manufacturer that wants to build self-drive or anti-collision things into their car, they're going to offer their technology up for that. So Google it right now. I've only just found it, so I haven't read the full document myself. DJI Automotive is official, though. It's not a hoax site. And we've even seen the actual sensors that they're developing and where they're putting them in the car. And just probably a little bit too late for you, Greg, that's all.
My first question is, are they going to use the same technology that they used in the FPV drone? There's a few crashes from that one.
Yeah, there's a few crashes from that one. You are low flying in the car, of course. No, because most probably the car elements that they're building is for the car to drive themselves. And if you left the FPV drone to fly itself, it would be absolutely fine. All of the crashes that we see in the FPV drone are all pilot error. Thank you very much for playing.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from that. So the thinking and what you've heard so far is that they're not going to do an Apple self-driving car. They're not going to do a Tesla self-driving car. They're going to kind of produce the plug-and-play hardware that some other car manufacturer can chuck in their car, put in some LiDAR sensors, and away you go.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we can see. From what and I checked the Tech Radar site. Some of you probably enjoy reading some of the things that come on that. They have been exploring a lot with LiDAR. So we know we've got the new L1 LiDAR, which is basically, I think, a modified Velodyne puck on the M300 at the moment. But, probably a cool 20 grand or something. And the LiDAR technology is really the way to go. So looking forward, obstacle avoidance has a lot as well in terms of cameras and processing that. But we think perhaps they're going to use a combination of LiDAR and visual, because LiDAR definitely has the ability to sense much greater in terms of distance. But the visual sensors are working on all sorts of new AI technology, i.e., if your forward camera on the car sees a soccer ball come out in front of the car, you might deduce from that the next thing after the ball will be a child. And that's a logical explanation. That's a sort of AI and learning capability that the cameras can have that the LiDAR perhaps have more difficulty in identifying. So, look, I've got to confess, I don't know a lot about it yet. I'll be reading some more this morning after the show and checking it out. DJI Automotive is the official name. So could be interesting. I hope they don't abandon their aircraft, because we'll be disappointed if they do.
Yeah. Can I just share? Oh, sorry about that.
You did share that. This is the news, by the way.
Well, let me press that button again in a moment. I'm just thinking out loud. What's the bet that we're going to have remote ID in your car?
Well,
now there's a thought.
Yeah, there's a thought. I don't think DJI have got much of a hold on that anyway. I think they're going to do that. The telemetry idea is kind of nice. Having that much telemetry being available for your car, those that like to see it, and of course it could be used in accident investigation.
It's not so much accident investigation. Yeah, not so much the accident investigation side. You've already got all of this data in your car. It's already there. If you had a low power radio frequency transmitter that was sending that information to every other vehicle around you in terms of collision avoidance, sense and avoid, and all of that kind of stuff, all of the image processing in the world is great, but actually saying he's put his foot on the brake right now, and this is how hard he's put his foot on the brake. So let's do something about that. I think that's is.
Yeah, it is. It's black box stuff. Well, we've always called the DJI telemetry kind of a black box type of cell when we do it. But here's the other thing. While we're having this fireside chat, and Lloyd will be actually shaking his head in the background over this, when Elon Musk gets all of his satellites up there and rules the roost as far as communication goes, I believe that there's a lot of companies that are looking at the potential of new low latency satellite technology, which the Musk system is promising. We're going to see all sorts of things come out of that in terms of monitoring your vehicle, the potential of your aircraft, bigger UAVs, anything that's on the surface of the Earth could be tracked by thousands and thousands of these mini satellites. So, and for good purposes, not just, the other thing that we know is going to happen as well. What do you reckon, Lloyd? Yeah. Are we going that way?
Well, I figure pretty soon they'll be doing endoscopies from the satellites, they'll walk around with a camera permanently planted up our bum, and we won't even have to go to the doctor anymore, Sit in your car, get an endoscope.
There you go. Well, that kind of puts
a colonoscopy, I should say. Yeah, endoscope. Yeah, if it's an endoscope, they put the camera on the wrong end.
Okay.
Or in whereas the Navy, they say bohica, don't they? You know that term? Okay. Bohica? Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay, so ladies and gents, welcome to OzByDrone. Now that we've got our intro out of the way, we're going to get into the news. As always, OzByDrone News is brought to you by AirData UAV. And you always need to ask the question before you take off, is your drone healthy? Or are you going to get a surprise, like someone running up the back of your car, on your next flight? Well, don't wait to find out. Discover information under the hood and review the early signs of problems before you take off again. There's a discount code, OzByDrone20, which will give you a 20% discount off their software. And of course, there is a free version available. In the chat, let us know if you're using AirData UAV. It's a really good service, and tell us in the chat what you think about it.
Great
but
service.
For now, let's go to our first story of the day. Mobile network giant AT&T has announced the opening of its brand new 5G Innovation Studio, a place for projects including drones to be researched, developed, and introduced to the public. Once the project and testing are complete, AT&T will take the data captured from that studio and use that to alter future tests and eventually the way drone operations are undertaken. The company has already been able to fly a drone remotely from their innovation center over 5G, suggesting the technology already works but needs some improvement and refinements.
Today we are officially opening the 5G AT&T Innovation Studio. This space is equipped with AT&T 5G network. It includes our millimeter wave, our sub-6. We're going to have here our standalone core, edge capabilities, and network APIs that will allow us to unleash some of the extraordinary immersive experiences that comes with 5G.
We can't do that in a vacuum, of course, and to really bring to life the unforeseen kind of possibilities of 5G, we've partnered with Ericsson and Nokia, who are helping us build out the technology and really the environment we need to be able to deliver those end-to-end consumer experiences that are really going to wow you and me when we see them on our phones.
Hey, you said me. This is where we bring
So John, oh no, have you frozen again? No.
So we bring in customers.
No,
looks
but
like
you
that
have.
naturally.
No, I'm frozen in stunning.
Platform.
Well, look at that.
Stack that's really good.
Look, at the end of the day, this is a generic 5G promo video, and the fact that they're doing drone stuff is really good. But what's your thought on the use of 5G for drones? Where's it going to head?
Well, there's two things about that. First of all, it works, of course. It's just a communications network. It's a way of doing it. I noticed the other day Vertical Technologies that build a beyond visual line of sight quad flying wing now have 5G connectivity. And it looks like their sort of transmitter is like a HERE box, a HERE link, which means it's got the screen and it's got the two controllers. Very, very simple. And look, you can anything that you can put on IP in terms of your MavLink. Once you were dealing with MavLink, it's not really that special. What you've got, of course, is latency, and that's the big deal. So 5G, it promises to have the bandwidth and to lower the latency. And so, yes, I could easily see that now drones could probably use 5G a little more easily. You know, when you stream onto Facebook or stream on this show, you're using the 4G network pretty much over international. Yeah,
certainly you are, but I'm not from here. I'm still on the wonderful No Bloody Network NBN, but that's another story. But 4G for you.
Yeah. So you're going wirelessly from your aircraft, and how do you plug your controller into however you're sending it? You're just sending it from
correct
by wireless network, right?
Yeah. So if I go and do a global fly-in and I'm sitting with my iPhone or whatever, and it's going to be using 4G absolutely today.
Absolutely.
That's the image, but it's not the telemetry, and that's where I think they want to go with that.
Yep.
Do you see potentially some BV loss challenges with that?
There is, absolutely. And even with OcuSync, because OcuSync, the technology that OcuSync leads you down is sort of this frequency hopping between 2.4 and 5.8. It's a proprietary technique. And you know what? The transmitters and the receivers are doing the magic for OcuSync. You can't just compress that and put it in. Sure, you can send the stream and the video over the 5G network. But when we're talking about a control link, a reliable control link, OcuSync is the only way you could mimic that, I suppose, is to have dual 5G streams, if you like. And I can't get my head. That's not my bag. Get my head around that stuff.
But you don't need to get your head around that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, OcuSync is sharing spectrum to increase bandwidth and reliability, whereas on a 5G network, it's already got multiple frequencies that are already being handled at that layer. So the other reason, other than reliability, is bandwidth, and the 5G network's got the bandwidth and it's got the spread spectrum. So that's all covered.
It is covered. Here's an interesting quick one while we're on this real quickly, before we jump to the new DJI aircraft. I uncovered something that I read all of the stuff on the Air 2S, right? And so the interesting thing is, yes, it'll work with the goggles. Yes, it's OcuSync 3. And, you know, what I did notice, though, is yesterday my smart controller, which is really just OcuSync 2, I suppose. Yes, it is, OcuSync 2. Came up and said, "Oh, we're giving you a software update." And I read the notes on the software update, and it said Mavic Air 2S support. So my smart controller now, which is an OcuSync 2 piece of hardware, is now going to work with an OcuSync with the other aircraft. Now, when I link to it, the Air 2S retrogrades back, we don't know. But we still believe that there's potential to have the Mini also used by the smart controller. I don't want to get into a big smart controller rave. The big deal was when it came up and saying, hang on, is this just software after all? Are we just using two frequency, you know, a 2.4 and a 5.8 transmitter receiver, and we're doing magic with software? I'd suggest yes.
Yeah, I think so. But the other question is it going to downgrade it and really be running OcuSync 2? We don't know that until that time actually
We don't know.
comes.
We've got to find. Look, we're running down a hole here. I think we should move on, because Lloyd has just nodded off.
He's nodded off.
He's just nodded off.
By the way,
so that's our
Mr. Ken Heron gave us a super chat.
Oh, did he? Well, he was there, wasn't he?
So let me go over here. Is the software not working today?
No, it's not, as usual.
Hang on. Let me press the firewall button to go and open it up, so maybe that'll fix it. But what did Ken say in his super chat?
$10 from Ken Heron. Greg wasn't in a car wreck. He was dive bombed by a magpie.
There you go. He's looking at it. You look like the Russian ex-president.
Yeah.
That's a Gorbachev mark, isn't it?
Yeah, a Gorbachev mark?
Yeah,
okay.
Gorbachev.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat. Who was that from again? Who was it from?
That was from Mr. Heron.
My brain's a little bit scrambled.
He's hit his head.
From this
Next
guy
story.
right here.
Next story. Hey, by the way, a quick comment. Anyone who wants to come in on our panel, we're going to do a guest panel after our 5th news story. We're going to talk about FPV versus CASA. And for those who are not in Australia, that is FPV versus the FAA or whatever your equivalent organisation is in your country. How does FPV flying interact with regulations and vice versa today? What are the problems and where is it going? And we'll also see some of John's flying with his DJI FPV aircraft. We're going to have a look at that too. So let's get into story number 2. Lloyd, can you put the rendezvous link in the chat for me?
Yeah.
That would be really good.
I will do that.
In the meantime, we're talking about a windy drone. And for those who might know Ken, no, I'm not talking about a drone that's farting. We're talking about a drone that can handle lots of wind. Sony has published the wind resistance test of its upcoming drone, the AirPeak. According to the test, AirPeak can maintain stable flight up to a wind speed of 20 meters per second or 72 kilometers per hour. Explore the test data in the video. You can have a look at more info there. Sony stated that this is the industry's smallest class of drones that can be equipped with their alpha camera system, which is also capable of dynamic filming and precise, stable flight. Let's have a look. So just at the very beginning, this is not your average consumer drone that we're talking about here. This is something that someone's going to be using for commercial filming, but have a look at some of the test rig that they've got there. Okay, are we getting ready to push the wind button? Here it goes.
This is pretty cool. Has it got? It looks like they're inside. I'm interested about the GPS. Oh, there it goes. The wind's happening.
So this is inside.
Let's look at the body angle go up. This is incredible. Usually that's what limits you, of course. And body angle limits. You know, if the aircraft could lean right over further.
So look, if anyone wants to read some more about this, if you check in the description for today's video, there's a link to the original story. But I think this is interesting to have a look at that. Certainly, do you know of any other drones that can fly in a 72 kilometre an hour sustained wind?
No, not really. Not like I've not seen that kind of thing, but pretty impressive.
Yeah,
got something tied to it. Yeah, so it doesn't blow away.
The tie was there for safety indoors. Okay, I get that. But nevertheless, look, I think it's certainly interesting to see someone researching in that direction. Certainly not something I've seen a lot of before.
Yep, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. And again, a reminder, if you're an FPV flyer, you're invited to come in and be part of a panel. We're going to talk about FPV versus the regulators, and in particular CASA, but you know, we might throw in a little bit of other stuff in there as well. Our next story right now, to safely operate a drone in a box without human intervention, the most critical factor is the accuracy of drone landings and, of course, in takeoffs, the ability to precisely land on a box for autonomous charging or a battery swap. For drone box manufacturers who seek to leverage reliable and cost-effective off-the-shelf drones, such as, for example, the Mavic series, solving this piece of technology is a key to commercial success. Flightbase has released an all-in-one Flight Now Edge Kit. This hardware device is preloaded with the software to enable a highly reliable precision landing for DJI Mavic series of drones and allows fully automated remote operations for a fleet of drones. Sounds interesting, but I want you to have a look at the images that we've got here.
This is real interesting.
I'm waiting for my producer to press the video button. Oh, it is going. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
By the way,
Lloyd, we're getting a little bit of echo back through you, Lloyd, I think.
Shouldn't be me because my mic wasn't on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me. Look, that's really interesting, Greg, because the drone in a box solution for many companies have spent, literally all their R&D money on developing a drone first, and why not develop the solution for an off-the-shelf drone, a COT solution? Great idea. I mean, I suppose they're using the SDK to add, the flight software to what's already there. Certainly good, vision positioning sensors below can do the job. But and we know how, if you've got your fingers on the controls, how accurately you can position that thing if you're careful. It's amazing. You land it, pretty much on a box like that, the size of the box.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, certainly their square panel that they've got that they're landing on, that's part of the technology, which we're going to have a look at in our next story as well. Yeah, just before I do anything, though, I'm having a look. The echo's gone away. I think it was actually coming through John's mic or something, but we changed. Yes, it's my producer's shaking her head. Yes, it's my microphone that's echoing, but it's coming back through them. But anyway, it's all good. Let's press the button and we'll go to the next story, the drone delivery one.
Say yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Say it after me.
Yes, dear. Juice is one drone delivery company. Look, I've had a hit in the head. Give me a break. Juice is one drone delivery company that is looking at precision landing technology. Once a drone arrives at a general area where it's supposed to make a delivery, it's programmed to look for the target pad and zero in on it for a landing exactly at the right spot.
He confirms it, wants to verify, hey, this is still KJ, your shipping address. Now here's the thing, you don't have a mat yet. So we're gonna ship KJ a mat. So it says ship drone mat. It's gonna confirm shipment and then he gets the mat. Comes in the mail. Now,
so the first time you order from this drone delivery company, they're going to ship you a mat. They're going to ship it in the post. And I'm just watching the meters and I can see that I'm coming back in through you, John. So are you on speakers or on headphones?
I'm on headphone.
Okay, still something weird, but we can't do anything about it.
Which will come and will be written on the map. So I'll keep it as simple as possible. Hit setup, away you go. It says find a flat spot on your property. You can put this in your backyard, you can put it in your front yard.
So yeah, you've got to ship the mat in advance before you first drop off, and then this company, once you've done that, it will autonomously precision land on the mat, or at least that's what they advertise. But you know what, if you have a look at this, and you can see as it lands, here we go.
Now what it's doing is it's stopping and looking for the mat. And you'll see it kind of start to move around a little bit as it centers itself in.
Needs to be higher.
So the interesting thing that I noticed,
it said, I see the mat, I'm at the right
as it gets close,
and I'm okay to start my descent.
Here we go.
And there it hit its point that said, I'm 100% lined up and I'm ready to go.
And they cut away instead of actually seeing it land on the mat to show all of the media people there, because as best I could tell, it wasn't actually correctly positioned.
It wasn't going to land. Yeah, it wasn't going to land on the mat. Now, here's an idea. I think that's great. They should develop that. But I'm going to fly around looking for those maps. See, what I do is and when I see one, I come down and I take a photo of it, quickly whisk one up on the printer and put it in my yard. I don't know.
Maybe if you live next door to someone, that'll be fine. But
yeah,
it's
got a GPS position.
By the way, Lloyd, your face has changed. Can we just? This is what I'm getting from Lloyd at the moment.
Gorbachev. Yeah, he's giving you. He was in a car accident too.
I didn't want you to feel bad about your you're bruising on your head. So thought I'd join the crowd.
There you go.
Okay. Again, today is a panel discussion. After the next story, we're inviting anyone who wants to come in to be part of the panel discussion. It's going to be pretty boring if you just got us three up here. So encourage you to click on, particularly if you are an FPV flyer, because it's FPV related. Let's go on to our next story for the meantime. And this one, Malaysian researchers have developed a method to transform the fibre found in normally discarded pineapple leaves to make a strong material that can be used to build the frames for unmanned aircraft or drones. The project has been trying to find sustainable uses for pineapple waste generated by farmers. The team has said that drones made out of biocomposite material had a higher strength-to-weight ratio than those made from synthetic fibres, and it's also cheaper, lighter, and easier to dispose of. If the drone has crashed, for example, the frame could be buried in the ground and would degrade within 2 weeks. Just check it out.
Dear. I mean, if it was carrying some Malibu rum, you could call it the pina colada. It's like a masonite board.
Yeah. But an interesting concept. Do you think it's got any applications?
Yeah, I'd use it for anything else. I mean, you know, you can build a drone with it. You can make a box with it. You can make, you know, use it instead of plastic. That's the real message, isn't it?
Well, the tree huggers
don't need
like
plastic.
it.
The tree huggers won't like it?
No, the tree huggers will. It's a biodegradable drone. It's all part of the greenies will love it.
Do you think it should go on a should it go on a pizza though?
Yeah, look, I'm just the only question is how will that particular aircraft do in the rain?
It'll grow roots.
Like most, the engines will fail first.
No, it'll grow on you.
Boom, boom.
Okay.
I knew there was one there.
Yeah. So we've reached the middle of the show, which is normally when we bring in a guest. We're not bringing in a guest today unless you want to come in and talk about this topic. So you're invited. Lloyd, put the link out one more time for us.
Yeah.
But the topic is an FPV panel. And to start our topic and discussion today, we've got John, our regulatory guru, and we've also got some footage from John that he's taken using his new DJI FPV aircraft. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. You run this how you want to do it.
Well, first of all, this is a legal FPV, what we call in the wild. So if you're going to fly outside of a flying club and outside of a standard FPV club where you're flying perhaps indoors or in a shielded environment, so the rules are you've got to have an observer with you. The observer's got to be trained for traffic mitigation. Pilot has to be trained. You have to have 5 hours on type. How you get 5 hours on type before I did fly the airplane visually for a while. So I flew the FPV drone without goggles.
So can I just rewind one sec, John? You've mentioned all of this stuff, 5 hours on type, etc. But is that under a REOC or is this for a hobbyist as well?
No, it's not a hobbyist. At the moment, it's under REOC. However, the reason I'm pointing out the restrictions is that CASA now said to us April 24th, which is coming right up, we're going to hold your certificate for what we call EVLOS or BVLOS flying and determine what type of exam. Because I wrote an exam for it a year ago and they accepted the exam, but the industry wants a new type of exam. So that'd be interesting. You know, we talk about accreditation here in Australia now. If you want to be accredited to fly even sub 2 kilo excluded category, you pass a little test. And the test says I won't fly above 120 metres, I won't fly beyond visual line of sight, I won't fly with thunderstorms around, I won't fly within 30 metres of people. And you've just got to pass the test and then you're accredited and then your drone and then you register your drone, 2 separate actions. So what we think is here, the standard operating conditions, one of the things that they'll probably do to start with to expand the possibilities for FPV flying is that there'll be more and more sites that are suitable for it. I don't think FPV in the wild, which is what we call, which is what this is doable at the moment because of the regulations. It's just too hard. Now in some countries, and this is where we talked about, Lloyd mentioned in the States, you're supposed to kind of flip your goggles up and have a look, make sure you can see the aircraft, and you've got to have an observer with you. Canada's looking at similar types of third person. I don't think it'll come without an observer. I think there'll be an observer required because once you've got your head into the screen anyway, you'll admit it's a pretty lonely experience, and there are dangers of someone coming up to you, I suppose, and unplugging the unit while you can't see it. But look, that's a whole other thing. These two videos are actually FPV in the wild with a visual observer. The risk assessment for both sites are 28 pages long, and the ones are obviously
so
off my houseboat.
hang on, stop, pause. You're talking about 28 pages of documentation so that you can do FPV flying
under my REOC, and so that's the requirement. I've got to mitigate the risks where I'm flying without technically flying without visual line of sight for the pilot. So our procedures allow for visual line of sight for the observer, and in the procedures, the observer doesn't actually have to be able to see the airplane either. Has to know exactly where the airplane is and has to be able to see the airspace around where the airplane is flying. It's complicated. It's complicated. There's no doubt. But because we've been always pushing forward, we can see that eventually, like the night flying, once upon a time, hang on, how are we going to fly at night? What's the point? All of those kind of things. And then all of a sudden, in Australia, they said to all the REOCs, okay, you can fly at night, provided you've got return to home function. There's no real risk. You can see the airplane. Most manned airplanes fly higher at night anyway, so blah, 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 and off they go. So we think there may be a day of reckoning where CASA says, okay, here's how you fly FPV. You've got your observer. You clearly tell them that they're to look out for manned aircraft. You've got your air sense on board the aircraft or whatever it is. Here's the limitation. You can't fly more than the observer's visual line of sight, and off you go. Off you go. So we've got to get forward to that stage, and it's going to take a little while. But these two videos were complicated in terms of the regulatory aspects because they're not legal by normal standards without a license.
So they're only legal under your REOC. So your belief is that we will largely mirror the existing provisions of US law, where they can currently fly with a visual observer?
I think the site is the problem. So, and I think CASA are waiting to find out how these aeroplanes are a risk. So we sort of agreed when they first came out, the biggest risk is the ground risk. It's no doubt at all. You're going to hit the ground with these things. You're not going to hit a manned aircraft. Very rarely does any FPV fly do high altitude stuff. I mean, the fun is to fly down low. And I've been up to 120 meters in the goggles. Yes, it's nicer to view, but the next thing you do is come screaming down at the ground, because it's the feeling of speed. So, that's a generally sweeping statement, but there is a significant ground risk in the aircraft, and particularly the DJI aircraft, which is heavy compared to most very lightweight quads that are used for FPV. They're very, very light, and they don't pose as much risk as the new aircraft does. So, and it's fast, at 140 kilometers an hour and 795 grams. It's a weapon. There's no doubt about it. It's a weapon.
Do you think there could or should be a difference in terms of BVLOS requirements? For example, if you're flying in acro mode versus another mode, should there be more stringent requirements of the location you're flying in acro mode?
Well, look, there's obviously more risk, but people who aren't ready for acro mode, who put it into acro mode to start flying, don't usually fly for very long. And so that reduces the risk. I mean, it's interesting. As soon as you crash and you've broken the airplane, you're not a risk for the rest of the day. Someone who's skilled, highly skilled at acro flying is probably very low risk as well, although, they'll tell you that they hit plenty of stuff while they're getting to that stage. Look, there's still so much around it that's not not certain at the moment. One thing's for sure, if we see now goggles for the Air 2S as well, and more goggles being the aircraft being available, it's going to become on CASA's agenda for sure. They won't let the manufacturer sit there and keep churning out these airplanes without putting some kind of scope around it. So the first thing to get, though, visual line of sight, and beyond visual line of sight. The legislation in most ICAO around the world legislation says you have to be able to see the aircraft, right? And that's a containment strategy. We've talked about that before. Visual line of sight keeps the airplane from flying long distances where you can't see it and it might be a risk to another airplane. So beyond visual line of sight is an exemption from that rule. It's not a new process. All it does is exempt you from the rule. But what they did with our one was they said, we exempt you from being able to see the airplane, but you're not going to fly it more than 1,500 meters away from you. 4,500 feet, I suppose, is a good distance, isn't it? Most would agree. So even if it was 1,000 meters or 3,000 feet, I think that was the way they'll start. They will put a containment around BVLOS of some kind, because what's the next containment? So you've got a visual line of sight containment. Let's call it 500 meters. Let's call radio line of sight, which of course is a whole nother subject. Most DJI aircraft are publishing, anything up to 4 miles or something, or we have 10 kilometers now, 12 kilometers for the new aircraft. And the FPV aircraft is talking about 10 kilometers. Really, at those ranges, the airplane's out of battery anyway. It doesn't matter. But there's another containment strategy: the battery limitation. The containment. If you're going to fly out somewhere and fly back, and you've got enough fuel to do the landing, that's a containment. That means you can't go further than that. So the technology is going to keep improving. We're going to be able to fly further. We're going to have more flight time. We're going to fly faster. And so as this comes up, the regulators, coming back to my point, the regulator is going to have to look at it and saying, well, how far are these flying? You can look on YouTube and see how far everyone's flying. Everyone clearly shows it,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I'm thinking that there needs to be a differentiation between photography, GPS stabilized drones versus flying in acro mode, because there is a different risk profile there.
Definitely. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. But a regulator will do little without data. So when you want to go and do something, you've got to prove a safety case. Now, if you want to prove a safety case, you can talk to lots of FPV guys that are good in acro that do the cine-whoop stuff, and they'll tell you, show you their bags of propellers, and and a lot of those guys operate sensibly. There's no doubt
they
about
operate in safe locations. That's the point.
They go to locations, so they don't want to crash and scratch their car. They don't want to hit anybody. My understanding and what I've seen is that most FPV people are very responsible with what they do and what they try and where they want to fly. They want the freedom to fly in a location where they can have fun and do that. So I see a lot of photography, so-called photography users being a lot less careful with where they fly and how they fly than FPV drivers. I can say that for sure, just from my experience anyway. I might be stabbing in the dark, but you tell me what you think. This is a panel.
Yeah. And speaking of being a panel, we do have our first panelist who's going to be added into the show any moment now. We've got Chris Hope. G'day and welcome, Chris. Just bear with us as we do the magic to get you onto the screen.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I guess what I'm thinking just before we get him in is what I would like to see is right now we do stuff, or we see people doing things which are not permitted by law. I want to get to a position where what 95% of people do is going to be permitted by law, provided it's safe. So I would love to see FPV people, they can go BVLOS, but they need to be in less densely occupied or populated areas. And I'm not saying you can fly anywhere if you've got a GPS stabilized drone, but I think there needs to be a different density, or do you know what I'm saying, John?
No, I do know what you're saying. I mean, look, we can sit around and we can wait for them to change the law. I mean, I don't know how that's going to work, how the regulator is going to look at that. I know that if we had a DAA technology, detect and avoid technology, that was, let's say, bulletproof for talk about pie in the sky, that CASA would, and they had a safety case around that, would be more likely to put some flexibility around it, because detect and avoid is a technology that the regulator believes, when it matures, will be a significant way of protecting manned aircraft about collision with drones. There's no doubt about it. We're on that path.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just switch over and bring in our first panel-y guesty dude, Mr. Chris Hope. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's up? Hey, John. Lloyd.
G'day. How you doing? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this topic?
I see John's point exactly. All we ever see is bad stuff on YouTube. The stuff that people do wrong. He's right. But there's a bunch of us that fly and fly right. Fly with people. Have somebody watch our back.
Yeah.
Fly.
So
I like to fly at the farm.
Sure. And certainly your flying that you do right now, you're in a location where you're on a farm, you can go crazy. And those kind of locations, we all agree there should be BVLOS 100% available to you. Yeah. Do you think that you would want to fly in other locations other than the farm, which are, where else would you want to fly if you could?
The bando stuff, like Ken flies at hospital, the Caraway Hospital there in Alabama, that would be fun to fly. I fly at our local high school when I fly at the football field and such. Usually try to have somebody with me. And the other day, I had told Mel here a while back that I always have somebody with me, but I finally flew without a kid. Usually got a little old teenage kid that comes over and watches me fly. He didn't come over last Sunday, so I flew by myself up the farm. But there's nobody around but cows.
Yeah. Okay. So this is your property. This is your property.
It's my property. Yeah.
I think that's a point though, Chris. There should be some legislation around your own private property, or perhaps it could be a stretch to permission. Now we know that landholder property. You don't own the sky, the FAI sky above your property. Yeah. Other people's property. You can fly. It's like common ground. However, right down low within a boundary of your low-level airspace is considered part of your property. So maybe that could be extended to, you could fly FPV in your own property within that lower band, and then perhaps fly BVLOS or FPV with permission of a landowner, in that low-level airspace that doesn't belong to FAA. I mean, is that something worth, just throwing in the air?
John, let me
until
just jump in with
his own cows. Will be all over
That's a whole lot of bull.
Under one.
That's a whole lot of bull. But here's a question:
as soon as you do animal rights, people will be all over the place. Drones are bad for cows. Geez.
Yeah.
Always going to be somebody bitch and gripe about what we do.
Yeah. I got a quick question. What does everyone think about the concept of shielded operations where, for example, you've got tree lines or buildings or other structures, and let's say it's your property, should you be able to fly in a shielded manner below that tree line because you've mitigated the risk of other aircraft, you've mitigated the risk because it's your property and it's under your control and you know who and what's there and you own it, so if you crash it, it's your problem.
Yep. One of the current STSs for BVLOS that CASA have put out says BVLOS conditions in a localized area where you have control of the ground. So that's called STS1, and we're looking at that now. That could be applied here because you're conducting a shielded operation. The reason you can't have visual line of sight, think about it. Remember, the legislation says visual line of sight. You must be able to see the aircraft with your own unaided eyes. Now, if you're behind a building, of course, you can't. So coming back to STS1, STS1 says you haven't got VLOS because you're flying kilometres and kilometres away. The reason you haven't got VLOS is because you're shielded behind an obstacle. So SDS1's got some scope, Greg, that might be interesting too, and they might release that. You know what I mean? So I don't know whether it's the best to fight this through property rights. You know, this is my property. I have the right to do what I want to do, and I know, you know, that there's certainly a good case for that. There's no doubt. I mean, there'd be lawyers would line up to try and, you know, go for that one. But I don't know. I mean, if we say to CASA, or if we say to the regulator, look, what's the risk here? You've got to legislate based on risk. And if there's no risk to no one else, then you can't show me why I can't fly, why your legislation works when the risk is as low as possible. And that's the nutshell what it is. I'd say we battle that one out with them rather than take them to court.
You know, you said something earlier, John, that I thought about for a second. You said we don't own the air on our property, the sky. You said that CASA or FAA does. Actually, they don't own it either. They just regulate it.
Right.
So I think I think the solution would be for, if you have private property, you're on your own private property. I think, okay, let's go as tall as Greg, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and that should be anything above that, or in the case of Kai, 7 foot. Anything above 7 foot, they can regulate. Anything below that, get the hell off my property and leave me alone.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I would suggest any structure that you own the height.
Correct.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Anything above the structure. Yeah.
If it's your structure and your trees on your property and everything else in it, and Greg used the word that Cassie used, and that's shielded. It's a shielded operation, and it's simple as that. They've got a definition around that as well. You know, so yeah. Look, as I said before, you know, I said that a lot of the FPV guys, Chris pointed out, do the right thing. A lot of guys do the right thing, and they don't want to. They want to actually pack the airplane up and take it home if they can. You know, that's what people sort of imagine, that these people are reckless. You know, they're actually highly skilled flyers. There's no doubt about that. There's no, if you try it yourself, these people know how to fly. You know, I've learned that in my very short time with FPV. It'll absolutely hone every skill you've got. Every skill.
Yeah. Speaking of people who know how to fly, let's have a look at your footage now, John. We're going to go and put your videos up. And Chris, while we're watching your videos, Chris, share some other thoughts about this topic that you might want to throw into the mix. So let's watch the videos. Your thoughts, Chris? Anything else you want to add?
No, man. Just, you know, it's always good to have somebody with you. And like I said, I finally flew my FPV without somebody. It's good to have somebody because they can spot you. If your bird goes down. That's the main thing. I know when we do our little gathering down there at San Antonio, it's nice to fly with a big group because probably most of them are watching you fly.
So what we just saw on this screen at the moment is John flying his DJI FPV, and the initial orbit was around what, John?
That's my house.
Oh, cool.
So
that's where I live. So I'm flying over water. You know, very low ground risk. I don't deliberately fly too close to anyone else's boat, and I take some altitude. You know, when I've got a little path around there that I fly. That's the short one, and I've got another video? One. The next one shows you. This is at McCar's Creek, and again, I'm positioned, you know, with an observer. You can see there's no manned aircraft risk because I'm below the level of the hills. And so, you know, I ripped down this river. I'd been practicing this one a little bit, so I've still got a bit of work to do on it. And I find for me, you know, my very, very limited experience in it is I pick out a regular spot and try a maneuver that I want to try. So I'm just doing runs here. I'm not doing any acro, but I want to get used to flying the airplane smoothly and in close proximity to objects. So, you know, you just take your time. And I flew that run probably 7 or 8 times before you saw that one there, getting a little lower each time. As I came down, I ran back and forth along the river. It was fun. It's great fun. Yeah. But I haven't got a scratch on my airplane, but I'm taking my time. and I am going to get a smaller quad that I can start practicing the acro on first before I do it with the FPV.
I don't blame you, John.
I might never fly that in acro mode. I see fun in doing it with something else, something lighter. But I've seen some people ring them out.
Something easily repaired.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. Something easy replaced. What have you got? Yeah. Hold it up. There you go. Show us that. Tell us about that airplane, Chris.
It's the Tiny Hawk too.
Yep, beautiful.
VMAX. It's a great little bird. This is my third one, but out of the three, I made one again the other night. I repaired it and flew it here in the shot when I got done with it.
Yeah, that's good. What's your other equipment that you're using in terms of your goggles and transmitter?
Got some Fat Sharks. Got a Jumper T18 radio that Rick Halber graciously let me have, and Mitch, old guy in the drone, has helped me, and Kai with Lone Star UAV has helped me get it going, and Doc Murdoch give me some antennas for my goggles of the day, and this is my 6-inch quad, my Tyro 119 that I built, and 2 or 3 of them helped me get it going, and it's fun to fly. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Did you find in the build, Chris, that once you started programming using Betaflight and things like that, that it got complicated at that point? I mean, I find people are suggesting that.
And that's where the community comes in handy because, like I said, Doc Murdoch and old guy in the drone and Kai Fredrickson down there at San Antonio, they've all helped me a little bit here and there.
Yep.
Yeah.
The build itself is not complicated so much, but the getting it, all of the elements to work together software wise is
getting the radio right, the right sticks, the right channel, the right switches correct. You know how you want them. That was difficult because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
And I'd be honest with you, John, I'd have to have help again.
Yeah, I think everybody recognises that to getting started in it, that you need a bit of help. There's a couple of guys, that are flying here and talk about videos. They send me links now. Okay, for your builds, check out these links, and for this, and it's great help as well. But eventually, you kind of get stuck. So, yep, that's it. That's
now they got Betaflight. Now they got it's called Speedy Bee on your phone.
Wow.
You don't have to
Bluetooth.
It can Bluetooth, or you can plug a cable in.
Yeah, that's great.
You don't have to have the computer out in the field no more.
Yeah, that's great to be able to do that. Do that adjustment just through the Bluetooth on the phone. Very handy.
Yeah. I still got to have some help though. I ain't gonna lie about it.
No, me too. Me too. So, what do you think? What do you think, Chris, about DJI's idea of just giving an out of the box airplane? Have you had a look at it at all? Their airplane at all?
Just the stuff on the tubes is all I've seen. It looks very cool.
It's expensive. There's no doubt about that.
I crash a lot, John, so I know the first time it would be toast.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking about doing is getting just some goggles and getting the air unit.
Yep.
For that drone right there, I can put it on that drone right there, and then I can fly digital, which is
Can I just?
Sweet.
Yeah,
let me just jump in there. Wasn't the DJI air unit retired?
Cadix is still. I think Cadix.
I thought I read that they're discontinuing it.
I don't know. I still think you could probably pick them up, Greg. But the other thing is an air unit for the V2 goggles too. I can't imagine DJI would abandon that market. They're not going to see the FPV guys jump into their airplanes at all. Just as Chris said, just to get the goggles and put it on the smaller quads. I mean, one of the big things I like about my little dabble with building FPV is the flexibility you have with the radio. Once you're holding a Tyrannus transmitter or whatever you're using, and the receiver there, you can absolutely set it up exactly the way you like it. I mean, that's very flexible. Whereas most off-the-shelf aircraft aren't like that. You can have Expo and you can have other things like that, but I just love the way the switches, particularly, are able to be set up on properly on a transmitter with a lot of different channels. In terms of what you're going to do, it's great. I'm just used to that from RC flying. I like it. Flaps and strobes and everything else you can have.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly interrupt and pause with a couple of bits of info from the chat. First of all, from Thunderbird 6, I figured out what the echo is. It's when John opens his mouth and the sound from his ears comes out of his mouth. So thanks for that, Thunderbird.
Thank you.
Also, I do want to recognise Artco. He did do a super chat earlier on in the show, and unfortunately, it's not on my screen anymore. He had a good joke there, so put that in again if you get a moment. Other than that, let's do this. We're going to keep Chris around in the background, and we're going to go and do a couple more of our news stories and pump through those. But any other quick comments before we get to the next story, Chris?
Good, brother. Go ahead, man.
Okay.
I want to put something out, Greg, just quickly to the Brains Trust. I got a pilot working for me out west and came to me this week. He's doing an event, so he's just taking some shots of an event, and there's going to be hot air balloons flying at the site. And I said, great, we'll get some shots of the hot air balloons. It shouldn't be a problem because I've been looking up there a manned aircraft, a hot air balloon. Mm-hmm. So I just wondered whether anybody else had flown around hot air balloons and or taken photos and what any of the risks they thought might be there, so we can have a look at it, because I can't find a lot of regulation on it actually. So anyway,
I think it looks cool, but I won't do it because I have the law. I have the law of averages against me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if it could be done, there would be distances involved, and like if you're taking a shot of a balloon from a distance, I wouldn't be getting anywhere close to it. I don't think because that's possible unless you're talking to the balloon pilots. But I mean, it might make some really nice interest. But again, this is a commercial operation, so we'll see what happens. It might be a no. A sensible thing might be a no.
My first comment would be similarly to at Scarborough, where they've got the hang gliders up there. If you want to fly over there, you go and have a chat to the people who are the controllers around that area. I'm assuming this balloon show would have someone who's controlling and maintaining safety for that location.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you're going to need to speak to, just as if you were going to a towered airport or something,
That's true. Well, I was going to have a talk to Lloyd as well, because he's usually around a lot of hot air when he flies, so that would help, Boom, boom.
There we go.
Come on, Lloyd.
Perfect timing.
There's got to be a 2 out of 10 in that one.
Perfect timing for the shot change, yeah. Let's move on. I've got a couple more things. Okay. The next one is undergraduate research teams have been doing some development during the pandemic. So there's a lot of restrictions, of course, and that's been a challenge to universities regarding COVID. But despite those challenges, one undergraduate team has been working on drones to help in the medical sector. They took their engineering mindset to work on aircraft design, but interestingly also how to do the research at a distance.
Deep question about what value do we as faculty offer to our students in classroom or online.
Each semester, Dave Chesney teaches EAKS 495, a course where students work together to build software around issues of accessibility. Faced with a global pandemic, Chesney moved the course online for the spring-summer semester and refocused it to tackle issues around COVID-19.
I was really drawn to this course because I just saw so much need in so many different areas and so many communities.
Going into the course, I guess I was a little skeptical. I was thinking is what I'm working on useful?
So I'm not going to play the entire audio of this one. It's a fairly long video, but the point that I guess wanted to share was, thinking out of the box during COVID and working out how to do design and build of new aircraft and new airframes at a university level as an undergraduate course. They were doing that and actually pumping out some aircraft. And the interest area that they were focusing on was delivery of medical supplies as part of their course. So just an interesting one to have a look at. Let's move on to our next story. If you do want to read more about that one, do go to the description for our video today and have a check out of that one. Our next story right now is the Agris drone. There's been some new DJI FCC filings and they have been found for what appears to be a new Agris drone, but also we did a bit of internet scrubbing and we found a recent video release in China indicating what's around the corner. The new model that they're releasing is the T10A. Now, this did come with audio, but unfortunately it was in Mandarin, and my Mandarin is not so good, but so I killed the audio, but just thought I'd leave some of the vision there. John, have you heard anything about this one yourself at all?
No, not at all, mate. I've not caught up on this. I'm intrigued by the aircraft. It's a good looking aircraft.
At least it's got subtitles.
Look at that. Yeah, exactly. That's a big. Look at the size of that thing, man. That's a big airplane.
Like watching a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah,
I don't know how many litres it picks up.
But will it carry a child?
Oh, look at that.
What's a gallon of water weigh, Lloyd?
I
Per liter?
I can't remember. Yeah.
Well, it's easy with metric because 1 litre of water equals 1 kilogram. Unlike the unlike the Gaelic measurement system used by some other countries.
Yeah. Give me a scale and a gallon of water, I can tell you.
Okay, let's move on from that one. So do go and check that story out as well, the Agris aircraft. Moving on, we've got only a couple more. This one is having a look at drone photos. Sorry?
9.71 pounds.
For a gallon. Okay.
Per gallon.
Our next story, drone photos show how the migrant facility in Texas has exploded in size over a month as Biden's border crisis continues. Now, I don't want to get into the politics. Whatever your politics may be, it's clear that drone technology is invaluable to journalists who have the intent to hold their government to account. So this brings into question, John, the things we've been talking about before. Airspace, and he goes and initially flies a helicopter up there.
Yeah.
There's nothing. He got kicked out of the site, but he went and flew a helicopter, and then subsequently we understand people have gone and flown drones over there and showing how the size of that facility has increased. I can't remember the exact detail, 2, 3 or 4 times the original size over the period of a month. Thoughts, comments?
It's a detention facility, yeah?
Yeah, it's immigration detention for border protection.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not up on the politics of it either, so I have no idea. And so the controversy is that it's been growing rapidly under the new president, and you know, I mean, as I say, coming back to the drone issue again, and we use this a lot when we're in talks. If you can go and hire a helicopter and fly there, then you can fly your drone there. In this country, anyway. Yep.
Absolutely.
So you know, that's one of the test cases. It's just the airspace. However, publishing the photos might be interesting if it's you know, got something to do with it. That's another issue.
Yeah, and the other question is, you mentioned it's a detention facility. Obviously, it's not a prison, but it's still a sensitive site. I don't know what the laws are in Australia versus what the laws are in the US around that kind of a site.
Well, if you're in China, I can tell you what it'd be like. You get locked up for taking photos of anything like that.
Yeah. Okay, we've got 2 more stories left. The next one is just, it's something that was on Ken's show, and I quite liked it, so I thought I'd share it here. And my computer is freezing a little bit there today. The Australian drone, I'll just press the button and see what happens. The Australian drone filming company, Queensland Aerial, has come up with an original way of capturing drift racing. Normally, it's all smoke and mirrors, but these cameras show clearly what's happening under the hood. Now, brace for impact on your ears. Here we go. started with the volume at 0 or almost 0, and it was already loud. But my wife had to go and share what it was really like, and it was interesting. But what do you think of that, John? It's almost art. And now we can't hear John.
No, there I am. Sorry, I was just on mute.
Yep.
While I was pinning my ears back on. I like the way it shows how it penetrates the smoke, or even if it was visible moisture. You know, the thermal camera cuts right through it. Which is really good. And see the people running down to take a photo down there. The detail in the body heat from people is really interesting. What do we know what the camera is, or what again?
Let me go and click the article. Somewhat.
That's a pretty good camera. Wow. That's just pumping heat out, isn't it? Oh, there you go.
The company was Queensland Aerial. This was filmed at Rocky Nat's 2021 burnout on a quadcopter with a thermal camera. It doesn't say what camera it was.
There are thermal cameras.
Was he flying over people?
Cameras, you know.
Sorry, Lloyd?
Was he flying over people? That's the question I wondered last night.
Yeah, he is there.
Well, it's a very good question. You never actually know in terms of zoom and position and all of those kind of things.
Look at the tyres. They look like they're... Oh, it just came off.
They blew them out.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go. No more wheel. It's come off.
He was behind a fence, Lloyd. You can see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, behind a fence. Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think that we're going to see more and more of that. I don't know if that's the best use of it, but you know, it's Saturday morning and it's not beer time yet, so I'm interested in looking at it.
Yeah, look, it was nice to have a look at, absolutely. And our last story today, we've been talking about BVLOS a little bit earlier, and this story talks about another potential solution to BVLOS. Is AR the future of BVLOS flight? The Flyby guys and Anarchy Labs unveil their drone AR solution for DJI equipment. The patent is complete, and this incredible new product is just a few weeks away from launch. Check this out.
That was amazing. That was amazing. That really was amazing, I have to say. I love this. I love this.
So the entire article, here we go.
I'm checking the IP settings, so because we are now probably in a new Wi-Fi network. I'm just checking the basic Windows Wi-Fi.
So the actual original story is very, very long. It's like 20 minutes long, and I just got a little glimpse of it, a couple of things. So they're overlaying the user interface, first of all, from a user interface perspective, and he's configuring Wi-Fi in there by reaching out and touching into the AR environment. Secondly, the overlaying of other information that's been obtained through AI, and also obviously overlaying the thermal data. What do you think, John? Is it gonna fly? It's an oldie.
Absolutely. Boom, boom.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And why not? Yeah, this is machine learning, AI, this is right down the center of our hobby in many ways.
You know what came to my mind while I was looking at the video is just imagine combining drone flight with AI and overlaying, let's say, the interior of a 737 cockpit. And making the user interface so you can actually go and fly a different type of aircraft in terms of doing all of the things that you need to do. There's all sorts of possibilities there.
Yeah, we had one of those, and it was a really strangely different way of doing it. It had this radio control plane with a camera, and rather than putting the camera on the outside of the aircraft, we put it inside, and we had a scale cockpit. and you looked out the FPV flying. You're looking out through the windows of the model aeroplane past all of this beautifully made scale cockpit. A lot of work, but it was really interesting to fly because it felt like you were sitting in that position, inside the aeroplane. Look, this stuff's all fun, as I said, right down the centre of our hobby. And I've always said the beauty of what we do is really the way art and science dance together in this, because flying is really art. It's in its purest form. The feeling of flying and the scope of flying, it comes down to the user interface and the artistic side of that. But science can sit right alongside, and technology can sit right alongside for the ride, and it's a very magic thing, a special thing that we have. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we have reached that part of our show where we've finished our news stories. There was one more we were going to do, which was showing a drone's eye view of the WrestleMania stage for this weekend, but unfortunately WWE copyrights prevented us from sharing that story, but the link is still in the description. Go and have a look at it. It's an interesting view of the WrestleMania stage from a drone's eye view. But at this time, I got a headache, funnily enough.
Speaking of your headache, some of the people that showed up late didn't get to see the video, so you might want to show that one more time so they can explain
let's
your
do that.
look-alike.
Let's watch Greg's crash one more time.
Please.
Did you see it at the beginning, Chris?
I haven't seen it, no, Greg.
Here we go. Now watch the brake lights come on in his car, and bang, they're on, and
boing!
Damn.
I love the way that whole car jumps off the ground, man. Watch this. When it hits you, I reckon all four tires, certainly the rear ones. Oh, look at that, off the ground.
Did your airbag get you there, Greg?
No airbag deployed.
His tall head.
You rubbed the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, you rubbed the roof.
I got rear-ended one time. The old gal hit me. I was sitting still. She hit me running 60. And when I finally got pulled over, I had the steering wheel so hard it bent it at 10 and 2 o'clock.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Look,
but I didn't skim my head.
If you have a look at that video before the crash, and you can see the speedo on the bottom of the screen. So it's only 40 kilometers an hour that it's traveling at before the crash. But I'm 100% stationary, and he had zero braking force. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. It was an interesting one.
Thanks to Northern Tier FPV for the $5 super chat.
Oh, yeah. Where are we?
We got to put some more of your crashes up, Greg, so we can get some more super chats in.
Northern Tier FPV, thank you. Great show, guys. Appreciate it as always. Mike B, what do we got?
I'm sure we could get some more super chats if we had like Lloyd flying. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'd pay to stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. T-Bird says MP planners. For those that don't know, he was talking about the driver, of course.
Oh yeah, P-platers. Yeah.
P-platers.
Provisional P-platers. That's it. I never know where they're going.
For those outside of Australia, we have a graduated license system. You go from a learner's permit where you've got a square L on the back of your car, then you go to a red-coloured P, provisional, and then you go to a green-coloured P, another provisional next category up, and then you get your full license. So he was only a new driver, definitely.
Yeah, and BMAC, thanks for the $10 super chat.
Just a kid.
Thank you, BMAC. Super sticker. Can you do that? Come on, Lloyd. Put on your high-pitched voice and do it.
Don't, Lloyd. You're good.
Stickers. I like stickers. Yes, I do.
You ain't no Art Carlson, I'll tell you that, Lloyd.
You're right, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay, look, we've reached the end of the show, and it's been fun. It's been interesting having a look at the regulatory aspects of flying a drone under FPV conditions, so that was good. Thank you very much for being with us. Before we go, Mr. Hope, last words from you.
Everybody have a good weekend, and just go have fun. Fly, just fly smart. Don't fly stupid. You'll be fine.
Yep. And don't. And if someone breaks near you, make sure you stop before them. Lloyd.
Yeah. Just have fun, folks. Be nice, be kind, you know, all the crap I usually say. Have a good weekend.
Mr.
Yeah,
Morrison.
what Lloyd said, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, fly safe, everyone. Have a good weekend and fly safe. I'm going out to do some more FPV today. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Have fun, John.
And I'm going to go and have some medication to get rid of the headache. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the show. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.